Chosen one, your radiance is not only something people see, it is something they read. You are speaking without trying, drafting paragraphs with posture and punctuation with pauses. Beauty has become a language on your life, and this month, God is teaching you its grammar so that you can say what heaven means and not what habit has taught. The vocabulary of this language is not cosmetics or clothing, though they can be syllables. The vocabulary is presence. How you enter, how you remain, how you depart. The dialect is tenderness with a spine. Every language has nouns, the solid things that name a world. In the language of beauty, your nouns are the realities that do not move when the room does. Dignity, consent, pace. These are the objects on the table of your presence. People can set their stories next to them and see their reflections precisely. When a conversation risks drifting into fog, you return to nouns with sentences as simple as weather. I am a person, not a performance. I am interested, not available. I am open-hearted, not open season. The nouns do not shout, they hold. Verbs carry the motion. Your verbs this month are gentle and exact, to bless without bartering, to invite without seducing, to correct without humiliating, to pause without abandoning, to go without rushing. You conjugate them in real time. You walk into a meeting and the verb is to lower, inflated tones, sharp elbows, unnecessary urgency. You sit with a friend and the verb is to lift, eyes, hopes, standards. You receive admiration and the verb is to land, cleanly, fully, without owing. You encounter manipulation and the verb is to return, what is not yours to carry, what is not yours to fix, what is not yours to fund. Your verbs make the sentence of your presence readable to weary hearts. Adjectives matter too, because tone delivers meaning before content does. You do not let sarcasm be the default adjective of your humor. You choose playfulness that costs no one their softness. You do not let defensiveness be the adjective of your truth. You choose clarity that does not require volume to be believed. You do not let exhaustion be the adjective of your help. You choose boundaries so your generosity arrives as river water instead of runoff. These tonal decisions refine the accent of your soul. People will not remember every word you say, but they will remember the flavor. Let it taste like clean water. Punctuation is where this language becomes art. Periods are holy because they let truth rest. You end the conversation when it is kind to end it, not when drama is done with you. Commas are mercy. They give breath to sentences that would otherwise stumble. You use them when you want to make room for nuance, when you sense that a heart needs time to catch up to a head. Question marks are invitations rather than interrogations. What would make you feel safe telling me the truth? What do you need from me that does not ask me to become someone I cannot be? Exclamation points are rare. You let wonder and gratitude supply volume without performance. Ellipses of vague promises are retired. They once bought you time, but they cost you trust. You speak in endings and beginnings now, not in endless maybes. There's also subtext, the meaning beneath the words. Your body speaks subtext fluently when aligned. You angle your chair towards someone who has been edited out of the circle, and the room learns inclusion without a memo. You set your phone face down and your attention tells a person they do not have to compete with a glass rectangle for belonging. You keep your hands relaxed while someone confesses and they know, without you saying it, that you are not gathering evidence for a future case. Subtext can be the most healing part of the conversation. It is where chosen ones preach without a pulpit. Language lives in context. You do not speak the same way in every room because love does not have a single register. With children, the syntax is wonder and boundaries in equal measure. You teach them that curiosity is welcome and that consent is a word their bodies already know how to say. With elders, the syntax is honor and courage. You listen for wisdom between their pauses, and you bring new truth without terror. With peers, the syntax is candor and celebration. You tell the truth fast, and you throw confetti at holiness even when it looks like someone saying no to a shiny invitation. The fluency is not manipulation, it is ministry. It is the art of saying the same truth with the music each heart can hear. A good language must be protected from propaganda. Flattery will try to impersonate blessing. It will use your dialect and change the meaning, telling you that your glow obligates you to show up in ways that exhaust you, that your calling must be consumable to be real, that your yes must be on sale to prove you are generous. You recognize propaganda by its demand for speed and its allergy to accountability. When you catch it, you switch tongues. You speak in the older language of the kingdom. No performed calmly, yes given slowly, love offered cleanly, and propaganda runs out of air. This month's high energy infuses your phrases with unusual charge. A compliment from your mouth will feel like sunlight. A boundary from your mouth will feel like a map. You use that charge to sculpt culture in small, decisive moments. In a hallway, you tell someone they are allowed to take their time, and their shoulders drop as if released from invisible handcuffs. In a planning meeting, you turn urgency into sequence by naming the next honest step instead of 3 imaginary leaps. In a text thread, you transform gossip into intercession by suggesting the only person worth talking to about a wound is the one who can participate in healing it. The language spoken consistently becomes policy without paperwork. Fluency requires silence, the white space where meaning breathes. You practice not filling every gap with expertise. You let quiet do some of the lifting so others can hear their own courage arrive. You hold back a brilliant sentence because what the moment needs is not brilliance but presence. You excuse yourself from a circle when the conversation turns into a marketplace for souls, and your absence teaches in ways your lecture never could. In this language, silence is not withholding, it is worship. It places God's voice above your reputation. There will be days when your tongue stumbles. You will say too much or too little, too soon or too late. Repentance is the editor who saves the draft. You return to a person and you say the right thing that the wrong thing tried to be. You tell them you are learning a new grammar. You ask forgiveness without turning the request into an audition for their kindness. You accept correction without publishing it as proof of your humility. In this way, your language remains human enough to trust and holy enough to lead. Keep reading the room, but keep reading yourself more. Check the lexicon of your motives before you check the metrics of your impact. Are you speaking to be seen or to be of service? Are you speaking from overflow or to outrun emptiness? Are you speaking to keep a door open that God already closed, or to invite a window to open where light will not scorch? The answers will tune your accent back to truth. When you are aligned, your language makes covenants out of conversation. People will start to rely on the predictability of your tone. They will seek you out when they need to remember that honesty does not have to hurt to heal. One day you will overhear how others describe you when you are not in the room. They will say that you make complicated things simple without making them small, that you say no like a blessing and yes like a promise, that your beauty makes people kinder to themselves instead of competitive with you. They will say that being near you taught them new words for themselves: worthy, rested, chosen. And you, hearing that report, will not swell with pride or shrink with false modesty. You will thank the teacher who taught you this tongue, and you will keep speaking carefully and freely until language itself becomes a shelter and your life becomes its most reliable dictionary. Chosen one, there is a way to hold your hands that turns them into altars. Palms open, fingers uncurled, wrists relaxed as if you trust gravity to keep good things from floating away. This month, God is teaching you that posture. Beauty attracts offerings, admiration you did not audition for, opportunities you did not engineer, kindness arriving like a bird that lands only where it will not be caged. The old reflex reaches for repayment before the gift can breathe, as if gratitude is a bill and debt is the only way to stay honest. But receiving is not an invoice. Receiving is worship. It is the act of agreeing that God is generous, and you are allowed to be blessed without bargaining your soul to keep the blessing from leaving. Begin with the simplest of liturgies, the one that retrains the nervous system that learned to flinch at goodness. Let thank you be complete in your mouth. Not thank you, followed by an essay that reduces you to a clearance rack of worthiness. Not thank you, wrapped around a counteroffer that hands away your center. A clean thank you lets the gift land where roots can form, and roots are what you need if this season's beauty will become more than a headline in your memory. The person who gives is honored by clarity. The God who sent the gift is honored by rest. Receiving without fear means retiring secret contracts that once hid inside your hospitality. You used to treat compliments as coupons, redeemable only if you spent yourself afterward to prove you had not taken advantage. You used to translate generosity into a lease, promising access in exchange for rescue. You used to let favors write policy on your boundaries, then wondered why your peace felt like a hall pass someone else could revoke. The new way is cleaner. You accept what is offered and examine what is attached. Where strings hide in the bow, you return the strings and keep the flower. Where attachments threaten to make you a spokesperson for a version of you that cannot breathe, you bless the giver and protect the altar. This is not suspicion, it is stewardship. Fear says you must pay to stay lovable. Faith says love is the condition in which you learn to live. There is a childhood arithmetic that must be changed if you are to receive with a quiet heart. The child in you, clever, watchful, taught to trade dignity for safety, still scans every kindness for a cost. Sit with that child as if you have time, because you do. Offer them small gifts that do not disappear when they are slow to say yes. A nap granted without guilt, a walk taken without productivity, a meal eaten without apologizing to the future. Let your present patience speak the sentence that heals the ledger books that were written in the dark. Goodness can stay. You cannot argue this into them. You must demonstrate it with unhurried, repeated welcomes until suspicion runs out of reasons to stand guard. Receiving is not passivity. It is precision. There will be courtesies that deserve your open door, and there will be courtesies that deserve your open window. You can accept the nourishment of a kind word while declining the invitation it attempted to smuggle through your threshold. You can accept a platform while clarifying terms that keep your truth intact. You can accept help with a project while refusing the clause that confuses collaboration with control. You are not rude when you sort the mail. You are faithful. What you honor grows. Honor clean generosity and it multiplies. Honor manipulation and it mutates. Let people help you. It sounds simple until you try to do it without apology. When a friend offers to carry half your load, do not turn it into a performance about how little you need. When a mentor opens a door, do not stand on the threshold rehearsing humility while opportunity grows cold on the other side. When a trusted voice edits your work, do not defend the version of you who wrote from scarcity. Help received is a prophecy spoken over your future. You will not build by exhaustion, you will build by agreement. The vision you are carrying belongs to a community that is waiting to prove it can be gentle with your excellence. Let them. Receiving includes praise, and praise is a delicate currency because it spends in both directions. Drink it too fast and you will be dehydrated by morning. Swat it away and you will insult the hands that brought water because you are afraid of thirst. Sip, swallow, smile. File the sentence where God keeps your evidence. You are growing and people can tell. Then return to the work with the steady gait of someone who did not need applause to begin and will not need it to continue. If criticism arrives braided into kindness, untie the braid. Keep the strand that helps you become more exact. Lay down the strand that tries to make you smaller to keep someone else comfortable. Receiving is not agreement with every voice. It is a conversation with truth. Let your calendar learn to receive too. If every minute is spoken for, gifts will arrive and find nowhere to sit. Make margins as if hospitality depends on them, because it does. Leave an evening open so the unplanned goodness of quiet can come over. Stop exactly when you said you would stop, even if momentum seduces you to keep going. The project will benefit more from a rested steward than from an exhausted hero. Rest is not what you do after you have earned it. Rest is what you receive to remain honest. The breath that returns during rest is the same breath that lets a compliment land without turning into an audition. The same breath that lets a check arrive without rewriting your convictions. The same breath that lets a new affection walk beside you without having to carry you where you are unwilling to go. Receive God again, not the idea of God that nods at your discipline, but the presence that outloves your plans. Let Scripture read you while you read it. Let worship name the ache beneath your tasks without demanding that the ache perform for healing. You are not trying to maintain a spiritual brand. You are consenting to be held by a love that does not invoice. When that consent becomes your normal, you will notice something tender. You begin to meet human gifts without panic because you have already opened the door to the giver. Gratitude no longer sounds like bargaining. Surrender no longer feels like collapse. Receiving becomes recognition. There will be missteps. You will accept something that was actually a leash. You will decline something that was actually an answer. Repentance is your reset, not your ruin. Name what happened without theater. Adjust the door. Bless the lesson. The people who are meant to walk with you will be relieved by your clarity. They were never trying to trap you, only to love you. And the ones who preferred you indebted will find another economy. You are not available for that market anymore. Walk on with hands that can hold and release in the same motion. Let kindness arrive and stay long enough to become strength. Let honor find you and pass through you into service. Let provision come and be translated into rooms that outlive your month of glow. Receiving without fear is not permission to become idle. It is permission to become faithful without the noise of scarcity in your ears. This is how chosen ones carry beauty when it multiplies attention. They allow goodness to land without surrendering their governance, and they allow governance to remain gentle because goodness keeps arriving. Chosen one, heat without a vessel scorches and disappears. Heat held in a good forge makes something that can weather winter. The energy running like live wire under your skin this month is not an accident and not a test you are doomed to fail. It is fuel. The assignment now is transmutation, turning ache into artifacts, current into craft, magnetism into models that will serve people who do not yet know your name. The work is less glamorous than the feeling and more satisfying than applause. You are here to convert voltage into virtue that can be used on ordinary Tuesdays. Creation begins before the studio door opens. It begins at the kitchen sink with water on your wrists and a vow under your breath. I will not spend this day on spectacle. You give desire a job before the world drafts it for performance. Pages to write, patterns to design, teams to steady, systems to repair, prayers to carry past the ceiling you used to call a lid. You make a list that is honest about scope and friendly to your nervous system. The list does not seduce you into heroics. It escorts you into fidelity. Momentum gathers, not because you are whipped by urgency, but because you are married to purpose. Choose constraints on purpose. Unbounded energy loves to spill. Bounded energy loves to build. Decide the hours your craft will get this week and show up to them like a person who keeps promises. Decide the palette for this project and let limitation become the mother tongue of innovation. Decide what belongs in this story and what stays in your private archive, so the tellings do not tax your soul. Your yes to form is not a prison. It is a studio with windows. Ideas pace less and produce more when they know the size of the canvas. Let the body collaborate. When the surge rises, walk until rhythm appears and sentences hitch a ride. When your hands itch, put them on what you make. Keys, strings, dough, lumber, fabric, code, until the itch turns to flow. When your mouth wants to argue with shadows, sing instead, even if only under your breath. The body is a loom. Creation threads spirit through muscle until meaning appears. You are not trying to outrun desire. You are giving it corridors where it can become something generous. Creation at this altitude must be protected from the sugar high of constant unveiling. Not every draft needs an audience to be real. Some work requires the privacy of a chrysalis. Public air too early will harden it in premature shapes. Tell a trusted few who will bless process without needing product every week. Let their questions sharpen your edges and their presence keep your courage from melting. When the piece is ready, release it without apologizing for what it is not. The holiness of finished is a mercy to the future. Chosen ones do not hoard almost, they donate done. Expect to be tempted by acceleration that confuses virality with value. Offers will arrive promising reach if you will file down your convictions so they play better in noisy rooms. Audiences will clap for your glow and ask you to mortgage your governance to keep the volume up. Decline with a steady hand. Your work is being built to last a weather system, not a weekend. The future you are serving is allergic to fumes and hungry for bread. Bread requires time and heat that does not lie. Hold your temperature. Creation likes companions. Bring others into your making in ways that turn ego into editing. Invite a younger voice to argue with your favorite paragraph until it tells the truth faster. Ask an elder to check the math on your process so excellence is inherited rather than reinvented. Build a team around verbs, not personalities. People who bless, people who verify, people who repair, people who say no dressed as love. Shared craft teaches desire to share space. There is room in the studio for many kinds of brilliance when hierarchy bows to contribution. Let your work remember the poor. Poor in money, poor in time, poor in tenderness, because the world has made them spend every soft thing they had to stay alive. Design for fatigue, as if fatigue were a guest you respect. Write instructions that tell the truth in fewer steps. Build policies that protect the quiet ones before crisis makes their absence loud. Draft emails that can be read by a soul with 6 minutes left in the day. Creation becomes holy when it aims at the relief of others. Your beauty is not here to be admired at a distance. It is here to make distance kinder for those who must travel it. Do not forget the economy of finishing. Every completed thing buys you 2 currencies: trust from others and trust in yourself. When you finish a hymn, someone finds words to pray who did not have them yesterday. When you finish a plan, a team stops wasting gifted hours on solving the same crisis twice. When you finish a boundary, a family stops bleeding at the same edge. Completion is compassion with a spine. The applause may be quieter than the debut of a dazzling fragment, but legacy eats in that cafeteria, and legacy pays out over decades. Creation requires rest built in, not bolted on. Work that cannot survive your Sabbath is work that will punish you for being human. Step away on purpose. Let the unfinished piece miss you. Leave notes so tomorrow can pick up without resentment. Sleep as if ideas multiply in the dark, which they do, because your brain chooses repair over alarm when it trusts you to stop. Rest is not laziness, it is craftsmanship in your own soul. A rested maker hears what a frantic maker only guesses at. There is alchemy available when desire is trusted with discipline. The same heat that once rattled your decisions becomes courage that does not flinch. The attention that once threatened to derail you becomes focus that threads hours together like beads. The longing that once argued for shortcuts becomes endurance that keeps pace with slow miracles. You will look at your table one morning and see artifacts where there once were only appetites. You will bless them quietly. You will send them where they belong. You will begin again, not because you are insatiable, but because generosity loves to repeat itself. As you create, keep your ear leaned toward the quiet voice that does not negotiate. It will ask for small obediences that seem unrelated to output. Answer that message kindly, even though you are late. Apologize to yourself for staying too long in a room that made you speak smaller. Step outside and let your eyes look far. These obediences are stitches you cannot see while you are sewing, holding together the fabric of a life that carries beauty without tearing. The piece and the person are being made at the same time. God does not confuse the two, but He refuses to separate them. When the month softens and the voltage returns to ordinary hum, you will not be empty. You will be surrounded by evidence, documents and designs, songs and systems, letters and liturgies that tell the story of desire made generous. Others will pick them up and feel less alone. Teams will run smoother because your radiance paid for a process instead of a moment. A stranger will read a sentence you wrote at 6 a.m. and choose truth over theater for a whole afternoon. This is how chosen ones spend a bright season without wasting it. They turn heat into harvest, and then they sow again. Chosen one, a shelter is not defined by its brightness, but by the relief it provides when weather changes. This month, your beauty has stopped behaving like a spotlight and started behaving like a roof. People feel it before they name it. Conversations uncoil, shoulders drop, unguarded truths look for a chair. It isn't that you have grown softer in your convictions. You have become kinder in your climate. The high energy moving through you no longer crackles for effect. It warms for endurance. The room understands that your radiance is not a lure. It is a lantern that refuses to interrogate anyone who needs the light. To be shelter, you first learn to engineer entrances. You welcome without surrendering the threshold. Hospitality is not open season. It is considered access. A greeting from you is spacious but specific, the verbal equivalent of a well-marked doorway. Come in as yourself, keep your dignity, and leave with it intact. This clarity is mercy for everyone. It disarms the anxious who perform to be accepted, exposes the manipulative who test your edges for sport, and steadies the sincere who came for water rather than spectacle. You have stopped using warmth to buy belonging from others. Now warmth is how belonging meets them without a bill. Shelter requires temperature control, and you have become fluent in it. Where fear tends to overheat, you lower the flame with proportion. Where avoidance chills repair, you raise the heat with honesty. You do not mistake volume for truth or quiet for peace. You sense when the room needs a longer pause or a shorter sentence. Your yes brings people under beams that can hold weight. Your no ushers people out before the ceiling sags. The miracle is not that storms avoid your home, it is that shingles stop flying when they pass over it. Being a refuge also means protecting time from panicked hands. Urgency used to rent your schedule in the name of love. Now love sends urgency to the porch to wait while wisdom finds a chair. You do not give your midnight to problems that daylight can solve. You do not let chaos set the pace for calm. Instead, you invite others into a cadence that repairs more than it impresses. First breath, then facts, then responsibility, then action. This order sounds simple until you try it in a hurricane, which is exactly where it works. People who expected you to sprint with them toward the cliff edge learn, sometimes grudgingly at first, that safety at your side is safer than speed in their fear. You have learned the liturgy of de-escalation, and you practice it in small, consequential ways. In a meeting, you redirect the conversation from blame to specifics so no one is drafted as a villain and the problem cannot hide inside theatrics. At dinner, you decline to turn someone's confession into content, and trust lodges deeper because you did not need material. In a hallway, you say, "Let's pause," when jokes turn into knives disguised as cleverness, and everyone remembers that humor can be holy without using anyone's softness as a stage. Shelter is built out of these ordinary refusals to let harm dress up as culture. Beauty that shelters also knows how to feed, not with answers that infantilize, but with bread that steadies. Your words come out loaf-shaped now, edible, shareable, made from flour people recognize. Here's the boundary, here's the next step, here's where I will walk with you and where I cannot. You discovered that grand speeches raise hopes and lower follow-through. Simple sentences make tomorrow possible. The hungry stop grazing on drama and start eating direction. You did not become a savior, you became a kitchen. You are careful with touch, physical, emotional, spiritual, because shelter that gropes is a trap. Consent is not a checkbox you collect. It is the climate your life sustains so that closeness can be clean. Praise does not purchase your calendar. Tears do not purchase your torso. Access is negotiated where both souls can breathe. This is not coldness, it is courage that keeps tenderness honest. People who have only known love as a transaction will test these walls. Some will leave when they discover the currency is dignity and the exchange rate is non-negotiable. Do not mourn those exits. Houses are not safe because everyone stays. They are safe because everyone who stays is safe. There is a watchfulness you carry at the edges of your shelter. Predatory patterns do not announce themselves with fangs. They send emissaries, innuendo, triangulation, forced intimacy, jokes that audition cruelty. You interrupt early, gently, and firmly. "Not here," you say with a softness that leaves no room for debate. You do not supply a sermon, you supply a standard. Predators starve where standards are clear. The wounded heal where standards are consistent. To remain refuge, you must be able to retreat into refuge. Your interior rooms are stocked. Scripture within reach, counsel on speed dial, laughter that does not require disclaimers, quiet that does not accuse you of laziness. You Sabbath as policy, not apology. When admiration tempts you to spend tomorrow's patience today, you go home. When loneliness tempts you to lower the rent on your boundaries, you sleep. When success tempts you to become unreachable, you sit with people who knew you when the lights were smaller and let them ask the simple questions that detox applause. Houses are safest where the builder rests. Your body participates in this architecture. You wear your posture like a welcome sign and a lock. Open shoulders, grounded feet, a gaze that registers humanity before performance. You have noticed how a single exhale can reset a table, how a slower sip can lengthen someone's courage, how stepping aside creates a corridor where an overlooked voice can reach the center. This is not theater. It is stewardship of physics. The human nervous system calibrates to the nearest regulated presence. You chose to be that presence so others could remember theirs. Maybe the clearest evidence that your beauty has become shelter is what lingers after you leave. Arguments feel less inevitable. People forgive themselves faster for not being dazzling because they tasted the relief of being real. Confessions come earlier, which makes repair cheaper. A few even discover that they, too, can be roofs rather than fireworks. Shelter replicates. It travels by imitation. It becomes culture when enough chosen ones decide that safety is a more interesting miracle than spectacle. Hold this form. Let it evolve without erosion. Let the weather test you and the seasons teach you. If a window cracks after a hard night, fix it without a press release. If a door sticks, sand it. If the furnace shows strain, take a day to rebuild the firebox. You are not failing when you maintain. You are honoring what you've made.